Listen to the Tommy Schnurmacher Show, live weekdays 9 to noon on CJAD 800 and CJAD.com.
Is your wallet feeling a little light these days? Your bank account, is it painted red? Maybe you're stuck in debt or you just can't seem to get your finances in order. Well, you've come to the right place, whatever the case, whatever the problem. Our next guest has you covered. Lama Farhan is a personal finance expert, the founder of the website MaxWorth.ca. MaxWorth.ca. She joins me now. Welcome back to the show, Lama.
Thank you, Tommy.
Now, before we get to the many tips you have, what do you mean when you talk about someone's financial health? Is it the debt they have, how much money they make? What are you referring to when you say financial health?
Well, it's really how well are you doing? You go to the doctor once a year to have a check. You check your blood pressure, your diabetes, your everything. So this is really about checking everything. Where are you spending your money? How are you spending it? Are you saving enough? Are you saving for your kids' education? Are you saving for your retirement? So it's really just looking at all these little aspects and knowing, are you covered in all of them?
First of all, how's your son doing?
He's great. Thank you for asking.
How old is he?
Oh yeah, I owe him a lot of money for those points. We haven't done the calculations
he's doing very
yet.
well. He gets points for every good deed he does, right?
Yes.
No, 20, right? And for 20 points, he gets
$5.
$5. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. I owe him a lot of money.
Okay. Tell me about the concept of paying yourself first. What does that mean?
Yeah, like people have a hard time with this concept, which is making yourself the most important bill to pay. So people are like, well, how am I going to make myself the most important bill to pay when I have so many other bills to pay? But the idea is if you keep being stuck in the short-term thinking, you're never going to get out of this cycle of, I'm going to start saving only when I pay off my debts. A lot of people use that logic. But the thing is, you could do both at the same time. So you could start saving today, putting a little portion of your paycheck aside and not wait till all your debts are paid off. Now, I know that some people say, yeah, but mathematically it doesn't make sense. My credit card is 20%. Why am I going to save? Well, the thing is, think of somebody who's, let's say, 40 years old and they have debts and they decide that they're not going to start saving until all their debts are finished. And it takes them 10 years. So they start saving at 50. So they're only giving their investments 10 or 15 years to grow. Whereas if they start saving at 40, even a small amount, that amount is going to have 25 years to grow. So you're taking advantage of the market growth, of the compounding interest. So it's really looking more longer term than, oh no, I have a credit card to pay. I can't save any money.
And also paying yourself first is not the only thing that you have to do. As you mentioned, you have to find out where you're spending money and what could you cut as well. Now, I think for people to understand this, and it's such an important concept, is pay yourself first. It sounds simple. It's the equivalent of when you make an appointment, when you have to see the doctor at 2 o'clock, you're there at 2. Mm-hmm. If you want to exercise but don't do it regularly, if you made it as an appointment, at 1 o'clock you had an appointment with somebody else, you'd show up.
Yeah.
So this is the same thing. I mean, treat everybody you owe money to. You're worried about them, but you're not worried about the money you owe yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
So you have to make yourself committed to yourself. And the best way to do this is really to put those savings on automatic transfer. So you get paid every 2 weeks, have an automatic transfer from your paycheck, from your account where your pay gets deposited to another account. So that way you don't have to think about it. And you don't have to start big. I'm not telling you put half of your salary aside. Put maybe $20, $30, 50, and then gradually increase it. And then, the other comment I hear is, but I can't even put this $20 aside. I saw a couple recently and, they were in the same issue where everything's expensive. We can't really pay for everything. And then we start looking at where their money is going. And they spent $200 at SAQ in the past 3 weeks. I'm like, I understand you need maybe alcohol to deal with your financial stress, but maybe that $200 could have been towards paying yourself first, right? So it's really having a look at where you're spending the money and being true to yourself.
This text is saying this is a replica of the theory that comes from the book The Wealthy Barber. Pay yourself first, normally 10% of your monthly income. The thing, though, is where can you invest to get compound interest these days?
Well, it has to, if it's not in GICs, because I agree the rate on GICs are very low, it has to be in the mutual funds. Like now, there was a crash last month, right? So this is the best time to invest. Buy low and look at where it's going to be in 5 years.
Your questions for Lama Ferran, text your comment to 514-800. Her website is maxworth.ca. What about someone who's got interest to pay? They've got their bank account is in overdraft. They've got a couple of credit cards, and they also have regular debt. They've got their mortgage to pay. They're putting kids through school, and they don't know where to start. What would you tell them? How do you get started?
Okay, so one of the first exercises to really see where things are going, it's two things that I do with my own clients. One is to calculate your net worth. Start by putting all your assets down minus all your debts and see how much are you worth today. What are we dealing with here? And then you have to look at your debts. How can you optimize them by moving maybe the higher interest rate ones to the lower interest rate ones? Next step, start by tracking your expenses. Look at where your money is going today. And from there, come up with a plan. If it means that you need to get a second job or to work overtime for a certain period of time, of course, like things are expensive these days, I know. So sometimes, we have to make sacrifices to find that money to save or to find that money to pay down our debts faster than we want to.
My guest, Lama Ferran, who's a financial expert, her website is maxworth.ca. What would you say to this texter who says one of the problems today is that people buy stuff they don't need with money they don't have?
Exactly. This is exactly the problem, is you have to redefine your needs and your wants, and not everything is a need. I think I mentioned it before, the advertising make it sound like you need it. Yeah, I need the latest iPhone, of course. Well, no, you don't. So it's really valuing what you really need out of life and what are your real values.
Do you think many people put it off? They don't want to know the reality of it? In other words, they'd rather not compile that list?
Yeah, because when you compile it, you have to do something about it. So when you don't compile it, you're just, stay in the dark and you don't feel the responsibility to do something about it.
Look, very interesting questions. This one says, "Hi, Tommy, I have $1,000 to invest in a company in particular. What do I do? Who do I go see? An investing virgin." They don't know anything about investing.
Okay. Well, I don't give financial investment advice per se. I go myself to see my own financial planner. That person, I would suggest that they start at their own branch. Go in there, walk in, and see who's their financial planner in the branch. And if you don't connect with them, then just go to another branch of the same bank and see if you connect with the second financial planner.
What do you suggest to students who will be graduating with no debt? What should they be doing with their finances?
Oh, start investing every cent you're making and start, you have to...
Wait, they have to spend some money, Lama.
Yeah, but...
They're not going to invest 100%. They're going to have to pay the rent and eat.
For sure. But again, what are their goals? Okay, let's go one step backwards. What are their goals? Are they buying a house in 5 years? Are they taking a sabbatical year to go travel around the world? It's what is it that you're trying to achieve here?
Lots of interesting questions coming in for my guest, Lama Ferran. Her website is maxworth.ca. Well, worth checking out. These are some of the questions we're going to get answers to. This texter saying, "Where can I check my credit and how can I fix my credit really fast?" Another texter saying, "I called the credit card companies to lower my interest rates and they said no." So what happens next? We're going to get the answers to those questions. Give us a call if you have any questions for Lama, 514-800 if you want to send it in as a text. Your questions for our financial expert, her website, maxworth.ca, personal finance expert. So a lot of these questions coming in for you. This guy called the credit card company to lower the interest rates. They said no.
Well, did he ask them why? Is it because he hasn't paid his bills properly before? Look at what is the issue. I remember, for example, my mom, a few years ago, she got refused for a Costco card. And she kept getting refused and she didn't understand why. And it happened that a bill got delivered to an old address and she had a big black, point on her credit bureau. So it's really, he can order the Equifax. You can go to equifax.ca and order a copy of your credit bureau and see what is it that's on there that made them say no.
This other texter says, a question for Lana. As a new business owner, should you be taking a salary to pay yourself, even if it's a startup and I won't be covering costs at the beginning, considering there's no other source of income at the time?
Well, if he needs the money to live on that salary, for sure. I mean, how else are you going to cover your personal bills? Because if it's incorporated, then, if the company goes down, it goes down. But for him personally, he has to still pay his bills.
Oh, you'll love this.
Okay.
Oh, Lama, you're going to love this. I finally got all my credit cards, 4. And it wasn't easy, but I'm really happy with myself. I found out yesterday that I had a credit of $109 on my MasterCard. And my first thought was, yes, shopping time. I literally dropped everything to do some shopping. And while I was in the store, I had this epiphany. This is what, for me, getting into debt was like the first time. I forced myself to leave the store and wait until I absolutely need something before I buy it. I think I've finally grown up.
Oh,
what do you say?
Good. I'm happy he grew up. Look, we're used to doing things. It's what I call an autopilot. He's used to when you have money, I go shopping. So it's what I call becoming a bit more mindful. Stopping in the moment and saying, why am I doing this really? And becoming more aware and more mindful, and then changing your patterns and your behaviors and moving from this, spending on autopilot.
This seems very strange. It says, I'm with a financial institution that's offered me the ability to take out a loan 3 times the value of my house. If I take out this loan and invest it in mutual funds, the return I make would supersede the monthly payment on the loan. But I've taken out essentially, how smart is staying in debt the rest of my life in order to make money? Why would they give him 3 times the value of the house?
I seriously don't understand that part. I mean, usually they give you max 80%, or maybe if you're insured by the CMHC, it's like 95%.
Not 300%.
No, I've never seen that.
No, that seems strange. This text is saying, is a car lease considered debt?
It's not debt, but it's expenses. Right? It's not debt because it's debt in case you don't, it's going to be on your credit bureau. So if you're not paying those monthly lease payments, yes, it's going to affect your credit bureau, but it's not a debt per se.
This texter saying, you have to be careful with a second job. Last year, I worked 70 hours a week at the 2 jobs from October to December. The government took 30% of my second paycheck like normal, but when I did my taxes, I owed the balance of my income from the second job. I literally worked for the government trying to get ahead and just incurred a new interest debt with the CRA. That's a horrible story, eh?
It is. Maybe there wasn't enough income taxes taken at the source, and then he was hit at the end.
And he was hit by how much he made.
Yeah. So, and if you spend all the money that you made already, including taxes that you owed, then that's a little bit of an issue.
Your questions for my guest, Lama Farhan, a personal finance expert. You can check out her website, maxworth.ca. We'll get to more of your questions. And don't forget, tomorrow we've got something very exciting lined up I want to share with you. Dr. Christopher Labos gives you the harsh truth about vaccines. That's tomorrow on the Tommy Schnurmacher Show. Any financial questions right now? Text your question, your comment to 514-800. You're listening to the Tommy Schnurmacher Show on CJAD. The founder of the website, maxworth.ca, Lama Farhan. Interesting questions. What's the fastest, easiest way to improve your credit score with Equifax?
You have to see, are you paying, at least pay the minimum on time. If you can't pay your bills, pay the minimum on time. That's the one thing that's going to definitely improve your score with them.
That man we thought was offered 3 times the value of his house. He sent the text saying, yes, I meant 50%.
Okay, that
so
makes
in other
more
words,
sense.
His house is paid off, and basically they're offering him 50%. I guess a line of credit against the house, and he can deduct the interest and make investments. What do you think?
Well, I think it's not for everybody. Like, he has to see, because here it's leverage investment. So there's the risk of your investments not doing well, and there's the risk of, not the risk, the fact that you have to pay interest on top of it. So how do you feel, take the sleep test. Are you going to sleep at night knowing that you have that risk? Imagine something like 2008 or even just the past few weeks in the market that went down. How are you going to feel about your investments going down and you still have to owe that loan?
This texter saying, my bank called to tell me they're raising my credit card limit. I received written confirmation that they did. Does the credit agency put a black mark on my history? I didn't even ask for the increase.
No, but what I usually do in that case, if you don't want it, it's not going to be a black mark. It's just going to be there. You just call the credit card and tell them, put it back where it was. And tell them you have to specify that you don't want it increased anymore unless you ask.
Now, there are a lot of people who have all kinds of credit cards, and they're saying, well, listen, but I don't have, I'm not buying anything. They're all on 0 or close to to zero. But the bank considers that you've borrowed the full amount, don't they?
Yeah, because when they're doing the calculation, they take the worst case scenario of you go completely crazy tomorrow and you go fill up all your cars, because you could. So this is what they use when they're approving you for another loan.
This texter wants to know if you might need to pay for education abroad for a child in the near future. Should you avoid buying a house and keep the money available just in case?
I mean, the kids can always take a student loan and they can pay for their own study. But it's also, you can use if they have RESPs that they accumulated here, you can also use them for studies abroad. So give some responsibility to the kids as well.
Good idea or bad idea to have several bank accounts?
I think it's a very good idea, but not any kind of different bank accounts. First of all, I like the new accounts that are for free, that are for savings only. They're not made for paying any bills from them. And you can use them for different purposes, right? Like I have one for travel, one for the school, one for municipal taxes. January is going to be the perfect time for people to start saving for Christmas. Look at, once December is here, look at how much Christmas costs you. It costs you $600, let's say. January, start transferring $50 to a Christmas account, and then you'll have your money ready next year.
What advice would you have for people who can't keep track of their money?
Keep track of your money. Write it down. And you can't keep track because it's all in your head. Of course, your head is not going to remember all the numbers.
And also, you're going to relax a bit too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. It really gives you a new sense of clarity.
As always, Lama Farhan, a pleasure talking to the website maxworth.ca.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800, CJAD.com.